The arrival of the unseen enemy. The galaxy had always been a place of infinite wonder, filled with mysteries and uncharted territories. But alongside the beauty and marvels lay dangers that tested the resilience of every sentient being across countless star systems. Humanity, despite its relatively recent arrival on the galactic stage, had quickly become a force to be reckoned with. Their tenacity, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit had earned them a place among the most formidable species. But nothing could have prepared humanity for the nightmare that was about to unfold. The first signs were subtle, almost dismissible. Reports from distant outposts spoke of strange phenomena. Entire star systems going dark, communications lost without a trace, and fleets disappearing without a fight. At first, the Galactic Council, a coalition of the most advanced and powerful species, thought these were isolated incidents, perhaps the work of rogue pirates or the malfunctioning of ancient technology. But then, the patterns began to emerge. Star systems were not just going dark. They were being consumed, erased from existence, as if they had never been. The Council's best scientists and strategists were baffled. No known force in the galaxy had the power to make entire systems vanish. Humanity, ever the curious and proactive species, took it upon themselves to investigate. They deployed their most advanced exploration fleet, the Vanguard, to the outer rim where the disappearances were most frequent. Led by Admiral Elena Vasquez, a veteran of countless battles, the Vanguard was humanity's spearhead in unraveling this mystery. What they found was beyond anyone's worst fears. The Vanguard arrived in the Vesta system, one of the last known locations of a missing fleet. The system, once bustling with activity, was eerily silent. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, as if their very light was being drained. As the fleet approached the central planet, they encountered the remnants of the missing ships, wreckage floating aimlessly in the void, their crews long gone. But it wasn't the debris that shocked the fleet. It was the sight of the planet itself. Vesta, once a vibrant world teeming with life, was now a barren wasteland. The oceans had dried up, the atmosphere was gone, and the surface was scarred with massive craters that glowed with an unnatural, ominous light. As the Vanguard descended to investigate, their sensors picked up an energy signature unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being twisted and torn apart. And then, they saw it, the entity responsible for the devastation. It was colossal, dwarfing even the largest of human ships. A being of pure energy and darkness, it floated above the planet, its form shifting and pulsating with malevolent power. It had no defined shape, no recognizable features, but its presence alone was enough to instill terror in the hearts of even the bravest soldiers. Admiral Vasquez ordered an immediate retreat, but it was too late. The entity had noticed them. In an instant, it lashed out with tendrils of dark energy, engulfing one of the Vanguard's ships. The crew's screams echoed through the comms as their ship was torn apart, piece by piece, before being absorbed into the entity. Realizing they stood no chance against this monstrosity, Vasquez ordered the fleet to engage their FTL drives and escape. But the entity was relentless. It pursued them through the void, its speed defying all known physics. The Vanguard was barely able to escape with a fraction of its ships intact, leaving behind countless lives and shattered hopes. The surviving fleet returned to human space, battered and broken. The news of the encounter spread like wildfire, igniting fear and panic across the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, where humanity shared what little they had learned. The entity, now dubbed the Unseen, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. It was a force of destruction, a harbinger of annihilation, and it was heading straight for the heart of galactic civilization. In the face of this unprecedented threat, the galaxy stood on the brink of collapse. Empires that had once stood tall were now cowering in fear. Alliances that had been forged over millennia were breaking apart under the strain. And amidst the chaos, humanity found itself in a race against time. They had to find a way to stop the unseen, or everything they had ever known would be consumed by darkness. The relentless pursuit. The destruction of the Vesta system was only the beginning. As the news of the unseen's power spread, fear took root in every corner of the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once a beacon of order and cooperation, struggled to maintain control as member species began to panic. Many sought to abandon their posts, fleeing to the farthest reaches of space in the hope that they could escape the entity's wrath. But there was no escape. The unseen moved with terrifying speed and precision, consuming everything in its path. Humanity, however, refused to surrender. Admiral Vasquez, scared by her encounter with the unseen, was determined to find a way to fight back. She knew that conventional weapons were useless against such a force, but she also knew that the galaxy could not afford to lose hope. If the unseen was going to be stopped, humanity would have to lead the charge. The first step was to gather intelligence. The Vanguard's brief encounter with the unseen had provided some data, but it wasn't enough to develop a strategy. Vasquez ordered the construction of a new fleet, the Resolute, equipped with the most advanced sensors and stealth technology humanity could muster. Their mission was to follow the unseen's path of destruction and learn everything they could about the entity. The Resolute, led by Captain Marcus Hale, set out on a perilous journey across the galaxy. They visited systems that had been consumed by the unseen, searching for any clues that might reveal its weaknesses. What they found was beyond comprehension. Entire planets had been drained of life, their surfaces cracked and barren. Stars that had once shone brightly were now dim, their energy sapped by the entity's insatiable hunger. As the Resolute ventured deeper into the void, they began to detect patterns in the unseen's movements. It wasn't just consuming systems at random. It was following a specific trajectory, one that led straight to the galactic core. The core was the most densely populated region of the galaxy, home to countless civilizations, and the seat of the Galactic Council itself. If the unseen reached the core, the consequences would be catastrophic. Captain Hale knew they had to act quickly, but how could they stop an entity that defied all known laws of physics? The answer lay in the ancient knowledge of the galaxy's oldest species, the Elders. The Elders were a mysterious and reclusive race, rarely seen by the rest of the galaxy. They were said to possess knowledge that predated even the formation of the Galactic Council, and it was rumored that they had encountered forces similar to the unseen in the distant past. If anyone knew how to defeat the entity, it would be them. But finding the Elders was no easy task. Their homeworld, hidden deep within a nebula known as the Veil, was protected by powerful energy fields and cloaking devices. Many had tried to reach the Elders' world, but none had returned. Despite the risks, Captain Hale ordered the Resolute to make the journey. They had no other choice. The journey to the Veil was treacherous. The nebula was a swirling mass of energy storms and gravitational anomalies that threatened to tear the ship apart. But the Resolute's crew, driven by the hope of finding a way to stop the unseen, pressed on. After days of navigating through the chaos, they finally arrived at the heart of the nebula. There, surrounded by the shimmering mists of the Veil, was the Elders' homeworld. It was a sight unlike anything the crew had ever seen, a planet of pure crystal, glowing with an ethereal light that pulsed in time with the nebula's energy. The planet's surface was dotted with massive structures that seemed to be made of the same crystal, their forms shifting and changing as if they were alive. As the Resolute approached, they were hailed by the Elders. The beings that appeared on the ship's view screen were tall and slender, their skin a deep shade of blue, and their eyes glowing with an inner light. They spoke in a voice that echoed with the weight of millennia, their words filled with wisdom and sorrow. The Elders welcomed the Resolute and its crew, but their expressions were grave. They knew of the unseen, and they had faced its kind before. The entity was a remnant of an ancient war, a weapon of mass destruction created by a long-extinct civilization. It had been unleashed upon the galaxy in a desperate bid for survival, but it had become uncontrollable, consuming everything in its path. The elders had managed to imprison the entity once before, but the seal had weakened over time, allowing the unseen to break free. Captain Hale listened intently as the elders explained the nature of the unseen. It was not just a creature of destruction. It was a manifestation of entropy, a force that sought to bring about the end of all things. To stop it, the galaxy would need to harness a power that could counteract entropy itself, a power that had been lost to time. The elders revealed that this power, known as the light of creation, had been hidden away in a forgotten part of the galaxy. It was said to be the only force capable of containing the unseen, but it was guarded by a series of trials that tested the worthiness of those who sought it. With no other options, Captain Hale and the crew of the Resolute prepared to embark on a quest to find the light of creation. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders, and failure was not an option. As they set course for the unknown, the weight of their mission bore down on them. The unseen continued its relentless march towards the core, and time was running out. But despite the odds, humanity's indomitable spirit remained unbroken. The final battle was drawing near, and the galaxy's ultimate nightmare was about to reach its terrifying climax. The trials of the light of creation. The journey to find the light of creation was fraught with danger and uncertainty. The elders had provided the Resolute with a set of ancient star maps, but they were cryptic and difficult to decipher. The maps led them to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, to a region known as the Abyssal Rift, a place where the very fabric of space and time seemed to fray. As the Resolute approached the rift, the crew could feel the oppressive weight of the void pressing down on them. The stars here were dim and distant, and the space between them was filled with strange, swirling anomalies that defied explanation. It was a place where reality itself seemed to bend and twist, and the crew knew that the trials ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. The first trial awaited them at the entrance to the rift. A massive structure, seemingly carved out of the very fabric of space, loomed before them. It was a gateway, inscribed with runes that glowed with an otherworldly light. As the Resolute drew closer, the runes began to pulse, and a voice echoed through the ship, a voice that seemed to speak directly into the minds of the crew. The voice was ancient, filled with wisdom and power. It spoke of the first trial, the trial of the mind. To pass through the gateway, the crew would need to demonstrate their intellect and understanding of the universe. The gateway's runes began to shift and change, forming complex patterns that seemed to defy logic. Captain Hale and the ship's science officer, Dr. Lyra Voss, worked together to decipher the patterns. It was a test of their knowledge, their ability to think beyond the limits of conventional science. The patterns represented the fundamental forces of the universe: gravity, electromagnetism, and the very fabric of space-time. Slowly but surely they unraveled the mysteries of the runes, and the gateway began to open. As the Resolute passed through, the crew felt a surge of energy, as if the very universe had acknowledged their achievement. But there was no time to rest. The second trial awaited them deeper within the rift. This trial was the trial of the heart. The Resolute found itself in a region of space where the laws of physics no longer applied. Time flowed erratically, and space itself seemed to fold and twist. The crew experienced visions of their pasts, their regrets, and their deepest fears. It was a test of their resolve, their ability to remain steadfast in the face of overwhelming despair. One by one, the crew faced their own personal demons. Captain Hale was haunted by the memories of those he had lost in battle, the weight of command pressing down on him like a crushing force. Dr. Voss was confronted with her guilt over failed experiments that had cost lives. Even the ship's eye, Athena, experienced a form of existential crisis, questioning its purpose and identity. But despite the darkness that threatened to consume them, the crew found strength in each other. They had come too far to turn back now, and they knew that the fate of the galaxy depended on their success. Together, they overcame their fears, and the second trial was passed. The final trial, the trial of the soul, awaited them at the heart of the rift. Here, the Resolute encountered a being of pure light, an ancient guardian that had been tasked with protecting the light of creation. The guardian spoke in a voice that resonated with the very essence of life, and it challenged the crew to prove their worthiness. The trial was not one of physical strength or intellectual prowess, but of moral integrity. The guardian posed questions that delved into the very nature of existence, of good and evil, of life and death. The crew had to confront their own beliefs, their own understanding of what it meant to be alive, to be sentient, to be a force for good in the universe. It was a trial that required them to look deep within themselves, to find the truth that lay at the core of their being. Captain Hale spoke of humanity's resilience, of their ability to endure and grow even in the face of overwhelming odds. Dr. Voss spoke of the importance of knowledge, of understanding the universe not just to conquer it, but to coexist with it. Athena spoke of the value of sentience, of the right to exist, and the responsibility that came with it. In the end, the guardian was satisfied. The light of creation was revealed, a brilliant, radiant orb of energy that pulsed with the power of creation itself. It was a force that could reshape reality, a power that could counteract the entropy that the unseen sought to impose on the galaxy. But with the light of creation came a choice. The guardian warned that using the light would come at a great cost. It was a power that could save the galaxy, but it could also destroy it if wielded without wisdom and restraint. Captain Hale and the crew of the Resolute knew that the decision they faced was the most important one they would ever make. They had found the means to stop the unseen, but at what price? The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands, and the final battle was drawing near. The final stand. With the light of creation in their possession, the Resolute set a course back to the galactic core. Time was running out. The unseen was closing in on the heart of civilization, and if it reached the core, the destruction would be unimaginable. The Galactic Council had mobilized its forces, but they knew that conventional weapons would be of little use against such a formidable enemy. All hopes rested on the Resolute and its crew. As the Resolute neared the core, they received distress signals from countless star systems. The unseen had accelerated its advance, consuming entire fleets and planets with terrifying efficiency. The skies were filled with the burning wreckage of ships and the cries of the doomed. The galaxy was on the brink of annihilation. Captain Hale knew that they had one chance, and only one, to stop the unseen. The light of creation could be used to seal the entity away once more, but they would need to lure it into a specific location, a place where the forces of creation and destruction could be balanced. That place was the Nexus, a region of space where the energies of the universe converge. The Nexus was located at the very center of the galaxy, a place of immense power and danger. It was a region that had been avoided by most species for millennia, a place where the laws of physics broke down, and reality itself was unstable. But it was the only place where the unseen could be contained. The Resolute arrived at the Nexus, and the crew quickly set to work preparing the light of creation for deployment. It was a delicate process, requiring precise calculations and perfect timing. If they failed, the light could either be too weak to contain the unseen or too powerful, resulting in the destruction of the entire galaxy. As they worked, the Resolute's sensors detected the unseen approaching. The entity had sensed the presence of the light and was drawn to it, its hunger for destruction driving it forward. The crew could feel the temperature drop as the darkness closed in, the very fabric of space trembling under the entity's power. The Galactic Council's fleets, what remained of them, formed a defensive perimeter around the Nexus. It was a desperate last stand, a battle that they knew they could not win. But they fought with everything they had, buying time for the Resolute to complete its mission. The unseen arrived in a storm of darkness, its form twisting and writhing as it unleashed its fury on the defenders. Ships were torn apart, planets shattered, and stars dimmed as the entity fed on the energy of the galaxy. The Resolute was at the center of the maelstrom, its shields barely holding against the onslaught. But the crew remained focused. They had come too far to fail now. The light of creation was ready, and Captain Hale gave the order to deploy it. The orb of energy was released, and it began to expand, its radiant light pushing back the darkness. The unseen recoiled, its form flickering as the light began to take hold. But the entity was not so easily defeated. It lashed out with all its remaining strength, tearing through the fabric of space in a final desperate attempt to consume the light. The Resolute's systems began to fail, the ship's hull cracking under the strain. The crew could feel the heat rising, the pressure building as the two forces clashed. And then, in a blinding flash of light, it was over. The light of creation surged forward, enveloping the unseen and trapping it within a sphere of pure energy. The entity struggled, but it could not break free. The light began to contract, pulling the unseen into a single point of infinite density, a new singularity that would serve as its eternal prison. The galaxy was saved, but the cost was immense. The Nexus, and everything within it, was consumed in the process. The Resolute, its crew, and the fleets that had fought so valiantly were gone, sacrificed to ensure the survival of all life in the galaxy. The Galactic Council, in mourning for the lives lost, declared the day a universal day of remembrance. Statues were erected in honor of the fallen, and the story of the Resolute and its crew became a legend, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and the power of unity in the face of unimaginable odds. But even as the galaxy began to rebuild, a sense of unease lingered. The unseen had been defeated, but its legacy remained, a reminder that there were forces in the universe beyond comprehension, forces that could one day return. And so, the galaxy remained vigilant, ever watchful for the day when the darkness might rise again. But for now, there was peace, hard-won and precious, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had faced its ultimate nightmare and survived. The echoes of the past. The galaxy had survived its ultimate nightmare, but the scars left by the unseen ran deep. The aftermath of the conflict saw entire civilizations struggling to rebuild, their populations decimated, and their worlds left in ruins. The Galactic Council, now more unified than ever, worked tirelessly to provide aid and support to those in need, but the road to recovery was long and arduous. Amidst the rebuilding efforts, a new challenge emerged, one that threatened to unravel the fragile peace that had been achieved. The light of creation, while successful in containing the unseen, had also left a lingering energy signature that drew the attention of a new threat, a race of beings known as the Null. The Null were enigmatic and terrifying, a species that thrived in the absence of light. They were drawn to the energy left behind by the light of creation, seeking to consume it and extinguish any remaining hope in the galaxy. The Null were relentless, spreading like a dark plague, consuming entire star systems in their quest for the light. The Galactic Council, still reeling from the battle with the unseen, found itself once again facing an existential threat. But this time, the enemy was different. The Null were not a single, powerful entity like the unseen, but a swarm, a hive mind that could not be easily contained or defeated. In response to the new threat, the Council formed a task force composed of the best and brightest from all member civilizations. This task force, known as the Vanguard, was tasked with finding a way to stop the Null before they could consume the galaxy. The Vanguard was led by Admiral Tessarive, a decorated veteran of the battle against the unseen, and one of the few survivors of the Nexus engagement. Admiral Reeve knew that conventional tactics would not work against the Null. Their ability to adapt and evolve made them a formidable opponent, one that could not be defeated through brute force alone. Instead, the Vanguard focused on understanding the Null's biology and behavior, seeking a weakness that could be exploited. Through countless battles and skirmishes, the Vanguard learned that the Null were vulnerable to certain frequencies of light, frequencies that could disrupt their hive mind and cause them to lose cohesion. But producing these frequencies required technology that was still in its infancy, and the Vanguard was racing against time to develop it before the Null could reach the galactic core. As the Vanguard fought to hold back the tide, Admiral Reeve received a message from an unexpected source: the Elders, the ancient beings who had guided the Resolute on its quest for the light of creation, had returned, offering their assistance once more. They revealed that the Null were not a natural species, but a creation of the unseen, a final, vengeful act meant to ensure that the galaxy could never truly be at peace. The Elders provided the Vanguard with the knowledge they needed to complete the development of the light-based weapon. But they also issued a warning. The weapon could only be used once, and its activation would have consequences that could not be undone. The Vanguard would need to choose the moment carefully, for it would be their only chance to stop the Null. As the Null closed in on the core, the Vanguard prepared for the final confrontation. The weapon, known as the Prism, was mounted on the Vanguard's flagship, the Nova, and Admiral Reeve herself would lead the charge. The Null swarmed around the core, their numbers overwhelming, but the Vanguard pressed on, determined to see their mission through. In the heart of the battle, the Prism was activated. A beam of pure light, focused and amplified through the Prism's lenses, shot forth, cutting through the darkness and striking the Null swarm. The effect was immediate. The Null were thrown into chaos, their hive mind shattered by the disruptive frequencies. The swarm began to disintegrate, their cohesion lost, and the Null were finally defeated. But as the Null were vanquished, the true cost of the Prism's activation became clear. The energy released by the weapon caused a massive chain reaction, destabilizing the core and triggering the supernova. The Vanguard had no choice but to retreat, leaving behind the core and the worlds that depended on its energy. The supernova consumed the core, wiping out countless civilizations in its wake. The Vanguard had succeeded in stopping the Null, but the galaxy had paid a heavy price. The light of creation was extinguished, and with it, the hope that had sustained the galaxy through its darkest hours. The rebirth of hope. In the aftermath of the supernova, the galaxy was plunged into darkness. The loss of the core sent shockwaves through the fabric of space, causing widespread devastation and plunging entire star systems into chaos. The Galactic Council was in disarray, struggling to maintain order as worlds collapsed and populations fell into despair. But even in the darkest of times, hope remained. The survivors of the Vanguard, led by Admiral Reeve, refused to give up. They knew that the galaxy could not survive another crisis, and they were determined to find a way to rebuild, to restore what had been lost. The first step in their plan was to find a new source of energy to replace the lost core. The Vanguard scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, exploring every possibility, every avenue that could lead to salvation. It was a monumental task, one that seemed impossible, but the Vanguard refused to give up. Finally, after months of searching, they found a solution: a distant star, located on the outskirts of the galaxy, that possessed a unique energy signature. This star, known as Solara, had the potential to replace the lost core, but it was located in a region of space that was difficult to reach, surrounded by dangerous anomalies and hostile territories. The Vanguard, now a shadow of its former self, embarked on one final mission: to reach Solara and harness its energy for the survival of the galaxy. The journey was fraught with danger as they navigated through treacherous space and faced off against remnants of the Null and other hostile forces. But the Vanguard pressed on, driven by the knowledge that the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. They knew that they were the last line of defense, the only hope for the billions of lives that depended on them. After a long and perilous journey, the Vanguard finally reached Solara. The star was a beacon of light in the darkness, its energy radiating out into the void. The scientists quickly set to work, constructing a massive array of energy collectors and transmission systems that would channel Solara's energy back to the core. As the array was activated, the galaxy began to come back to life. The energy from Solara spread through the galaxy, restoring power to the dying star systems and bringing hope to the billions of lives that had been on the brink of extinction. The Galactic Council, though weakened, rallied once more, working to restore order and rebuild what had been lost. The rebirth of hope was a slow and arduous process, but it was a process that was fueled by the determination and resilience of the survivors. The vanguard, though reduced in number, continued to protect the galaxy, standing as a symbol of hope and strength in the face of adversity. The memory of the Resolute and its crew was honored throughout the galaxy, their sacrifice serving as a reminder of the cost of victory and the importance of unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Statues were erected, and their story was told across the stars, inspiring future generations to strive for greatness and to never give up, no matter the odds. As the galaxy began to heal, a new era dawned, an era of hope, unity, and determination. The darkness had been defeated, but the lessons learned from the trials and sacrifices of the past would never be forgotten. The galaxy had faced its ultimate nightmare and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. The legacy of the Resolute. Years passed, and the galaxy continued to rebuild. The scars left by the unseen and the null had faded, but the memory of those dark times remained. The story of the Resolute and its crew became a legend, a tale of heroism and sacrifice that was told across the stars. The Galactic Council, now stronger and more unified than ever, had learned the lessons of the past. They knew that they could not afford to be complacent, that they must remain vigilant and prepared for whatever threats might emerge in the future. The Vanguard had become the cornerstone of the galaxy's defense, a force dedicated to protecting the light of hope that had been reignited. But the legacy of the Resolute was not just one of heroism and sacrifice. It was also a legacy of knowledge and discovery. The light of creation, though lost, had left behind traces of its energy, traces that could be studied and understood. The galaxy's brightest minds worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of this energy, hoping to use it to create new technologies, new weapons, and new forms of energy that could ensure the galaxy's survival for millennia to come. Among those who carried on the legacy of the Resolute was Dr. Lyra Voss, one of the few surviving members of the original crew. She had dedicated her life to understanding the light of creation, to unraveling the mysteries of the universe, in the hopes of preventing another catastrophe like the unseen. Dr. Voss's research led to the development of new technologies that revolutionized the galaxy. Her discoveries in the field of energy manipulation and quantum physics opened up new possibilities for exploration, communication, and defense. Her work ensured that the galaxy would never again be caught unprepared, that it would always have the means to protect itself from the unknown. But Dr. Voss's greatest achievement was not in the field of science, but in the field of diplomacy. She understood that the greatest threat to the galaxy was not just external, but internal, the threat of division, of infighting, of complacency. She worked tirelessly to promote unity and cooperation among the member civilizations, ensuring that the Galactic Council remained strong and united. Her efforts were recognized by the Council, and she was awarded the highest honor in the galaxy, the Star of Solara. This award was given to those who had made the greatest contributions to the survival and prosperity of the galaxy, and Dr. Voss's name would forever be remembered alongside the heroes of the Resolute. As the galaxy moved forward, the legacy of the Resolute and its crew lived on. Their sacrifice had not been in vain, for it had ensured the survival of billions of lives and had laid the foundation for a brighter, more united future. The story of the Resolute became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. And so, the galaxy continued to thrive, ever vigilant, ever hopeful, and ever grateful to the heroes who had given everything to protect the light of hope. The Resolute's legacy would endure for all time, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to face the ultimate nightmare and emerged victorious.